Morning. How's everybody doing? As promised, coming back to you live, talking all things nutrition label, according to the new nutrition label that has recently come out. It's been a work in progress. Just going to give a couple minutes here for a couple folks to jump on, and we'll jump right into it. Hope everyone's doing well. We're here in San Antonio, Texas, getting a little rain, and it's a beautiful start to a beautiful morning. All right. All right, well, let's jump right into it. Just want to talk a little bit about, as promised, with our last segment, we talked about the updates according to nutrition guidelines in regards to locations. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the label that you'll see on packages. So let's dive right into it. Just a little background on nutrition labeling. As a matter of fact, there was a Nutrition Labeling and Education Act, the NLEA, in 1990 that passed, basically providing a solution to the nutrition labeling on products. It took 5 years. I think it's important because history usually repeats itself to note. It wasn't until 1994, 1995 truly that the labels appeared on all products. That kind of went its way through. They talked that through, worked out some kinks. It really wasn't until 2006 that there were some additional changes. Trans fats kind of made headlines and became popular for the food industry. And what a trans fat is, as a nutritionist, sorry, sometimes I share too much info, is basically what they do is they take an oxygen hydrogen molecule that would normally H2O turn into water, and what they do is they move the bonds, the hydrogen bonds, and create, in chemistry it's called a trans, which is opposite, in order to prevent oxygen, when the package is exposed to, binding with hydrogen and creating water, or H2O as we know. So a trans bond moves that across and prevents water spoilage of a product. So basically what's done with trans fats is it's placed under a high pressure machine that moves those hydrogen bonds and creates this trans bond. Well, our body doesn't recognize it, doesn't know what it is, it doesn't know how to process it, so it treats it kind of like a saturated fat in our body, and so it creates a lot of issues. Well, that was coming out. Scientists were so excited, as always, that they had discovered these trans fats, which were going to make products more shelf-stable, longer lasting on the shelf, saving money for food manufacturers. But what they didn't realize is what it was doing to the body. Research still had to be done on that. So anyways, that came out 2006. They required the labeling of trans fats to be included directly under saturated fat. And then other things developed as more research came out, things like high fructose corn syrup. But it really wasn't until 2014 that several changes were proposed. It was a first time in 20 years. So it's interesting to note. And the food associations opposed the change. There's several changes that I'm going to dive into now, the meat and bones of this, just to kind of show you, as a consumer, what to be looking for as you're going to be seeing these nutrition labels that are going to be now on products all across the shelves across America. Number two, as a product developer, a CPG, you have a consumer packaged good. I want you to be aware of what this does for you, and how this is really what a lot of folks have been asking for a long time. So let's kind of dive into this. The old label, if you look at it, and I'll make sure to include a photo below here after the segment, is you'll notice that it has nutrition facts, serving size, number of servings, and then the information that follows is determined upon the serving size. So for instance, the particular one I'm going to be sharing with you, 2/3 cup, that you can refer to afterwards, that means that in that serving of 2/3 cup, the information that follows is what you will be receiving. So in this example, it has 230 calories. If you were to consume 2/3 of a cup, you would get 230 calories, 8 grams of fat, yada, yada, yada. So that's important to note. As a consumer, we know that a majority of Americans are confused, frankly, just uneducated on how to read a food label. So a part of the reason that these changes have been proposed is in order to orchestrate a better understanding of what you're looking at, the information. So I don't want to spend a great deal of time on the old one, but I'd like to actually spend the remainder of our time on the new nutrition label of what you're going to be seeing and what to look for. So in the new label, what you're going to notice first and foremost is the number of servings have been moved to the top. You're also going to notice that the serving size is bolded. It's bold in a larger format, font, so that you can read it more clearly. What you need to know is if you are eating a bag of chips or drinking a soda water that has more than one serving. In this example, there's 8 servings. If you were to consume that entire amount, whether in one sitting or over the course of time, what you need to know is that you actually have to do a little math, meaning that if you consume the whole package, in this case of 8 servings, you would actually need to multiply the facts by 8 in order to accurately understand how much you have consumed. So in the example of 230 calories, and this particular nutrition label has 8 servings, what you would do is you would do 230 times 8, and you would realize if you were to consume this entire product, you would actually be getting, if you do the math, 230 times 8, about 1,840 calories in this example. So just want to make that known. And the same goes true all the way down for fat, for sodium, for sugar. Okay? And I mentioned this last time, and I just want to mention it here since we mentioned those, is the top 3 things that we're concerned with for the Dietary Guidelines for Americans that came out in 2015 that we want you to really focus on. So speaking to you as a consumer, we want you to focus on not the number of calories. In fact, we want you to focus right now on fat, and specifically the types of fat. We'll get into that. Sodium, which is salt as we know it, and sugar. Those 3 have really created some issues in the products that we're consuming. So we'll get into that a little deeper. Those are the 3 things that I mainly want you to focus on when you're reading a label as a consumer. Okay? The next thing you're going to find is the amount per serving. So you're going to see calories are bolded. That is important simply because most folks think calories are the single most important thing. What I've already told you, the first thing we should be looking at is the serving size. and the number of servings per container. Okay. The second thing your eye catches is the calories. What we know is everyone is unique in regards to the number of calories they consume. Calories are simply a measurement of fuel, energy. When they put a product, a food, into what they call a calorie meter, it measures kilojoules when it's burning off. That kilojoules is translated to kilocalories, or calories as we know it. So in this particular item, let's say we had a slice of bread. Put in the calorie meter, when that burns off, that demonstrates how much energy that would give you. So if that slice of bread had 230 calories, you would know that's how much energy you're getting from it. Calories are simply a measurement of fuel, just like gasoline is fuel for our cars. Okay, just want to put that in perspective. The next thing that you're going to notice is total fat. Quickly, I just want to teach you something. We are not as concerned with total fat as much as we are concerned with the type of fat. Saturated fat comes from animals. Trans fats I've already described. We want to try to limit the amount of saturated fat coming from animals and try to get more plant-based. Plant-based fat would be, we would see that in the form of MUFAs, which is monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated, which it means many. Unsaturated fat is liquid at room temperature, like this water. Things like oil you can think of. Saturated fat like butter, lard, are solid at room temperature. Those we want to try to limit in a day's time. Okay? So what you'll also notice is that it gives the grams of these items, and then it also gives percentage of daily value, showing based on an average American consuming around 2,500 calories. Of those 2,500 calories, there's a recommended daily value for the information that follows. For instance, for fat, in this example, there's a total of 8 grams. That's about 10% of your daily value. So what that's broken down to is of the 2,500 calories, or 2,000 calorie diet, let's use that as an example for math's sake, the total fat would be less than 65 grams. That is based off of a percentage of the total calories. So for example, perhaps 35% of your calories can come from fat. Okay? An additional 30% can come from protein, depending on the individual, right? The remaining, in this case, 35% can come from carbohydrates. Now, there's different unique individuals that move those percentages differently. Some folks focus on consuming more fat, so they get more like 45% of their calories from fat, and 35% from protein, and like 25%, not doing the math right now, from carbohydrates, and they lower that. And that's okay. I'm just giving you an example of where they're getting these numbers from, okay? A lot of math involved. You'll see saturated, you'll see trans. The next thing you're going to see is cholesterol. Cholesterol comes from animals. So if this particular product is not animal-based, it will say 0 milligrams of cholesterol. Don't be fooled by manufacturers that are in the business of selling products that put information on the front of the label saying things like no cholesterol, no trans fats. Always flip over and look at the label and understand what you're working with. Okay, that's the best way to look at. Not to be as concerned about, oh, it's a pretty looking product, oh, it has all these great things it's saying. you always want to look at the actual label. Okay, so that's what we're educating on. Now, for a manufacturer or anybody who's making a product, I want to try to show you, we'll do this in another episode, and with the kitchen that we have that's coming soon, is other types of fats that you can use that are not animal-based to deliver a healthier, tasteful product that is shelf-stable. Okay, we'll talk about that. The next thing you're going to see is sodium. We've already said that is salt. The recommendation on that is 2,300 milligrams. To put that in perspective, that's about a teaspoon and a half a day. So, in this particular example of 160 milligrams, that's about 7% of the daily value. So that's about 7% of the recommendation of the 2,300 milligrams. Okay, it can be less if somebody has a heart condition, but 2,300 milligrams, again, talking to the average healthy American. Okay, as a manufacturer, product developer, sorry, I'm going back and forth, you want to think of ways that you can reduce the salt, because now Americans are being educated. Look at fat, look at salt, look at sugar. There's other things that we can do to create a palatable, mouthfeel product that doesn't have as much salt. We can introduce herbs and spices and other things that we can do and bring to that particular product that doesn't have to be as consumed with salt. Okay. The other thing you'll see is total carbohydrates. That, just to break it down, carbohydrates come from the earth, anything that's grown. So that is a carbohydrate. So it would go here in this category. And just to show you how math intensive this is all, the way they calculate calories is this way. Write this down, make this note. I don't have a chalkboard here to write it for you. Is carbohydrates, protein per 1 gram is 4 kilocalories per gram. So if I have 1 gram of protein, that would add to my calorie count 4 calories. Protein and carbohydrates, 1 gram is 4 kilocalories. Okay. For fat, 1 gram is 9 kilocalories. So fat provides more calories. Alcohol, the only other measurement, is 7 calories per gram. So just keep that in mind, how they do the math and how they figure out the calorie count. Okay. The fiber is important to help balance sugar. And fiber is one of those that is been on the label and you'll continue to see throughout. But here you're going to see total sugars, and you're going to see something called added sugar. Let me speak to this for just a moment. Added sugar is this. If it is not naturally occurring in the food, such as fruit, such as any particular item that's going to be sugar containing, and it is added, even honey and other natural sweeteners, if they are added, that is referred to as added sugar, to which you'll find that directly under the total sugar count, and you'll be able to quickly notice where the sugars are coming from, if they're added to this product or if they are naturally occurring. So I just want to point that out. This seems to be a problem for a lot of food manufacturers that are trying to create tasty products, is they feel that consumers will look at their product differently, showing added sugars here. And they're actually right for that assumption. Consumers are going to see this at some point or another. Most consumers are not really reading the label, so I wouldn't be as concerned for product developers. But there are consumers that are conscious and that are looking at labels, and more will be inclined to do so, as there is more what I call vulnerability, accountability, and frankly just truthfulness with how food manufacturers are making products. And I work with True Wellness. We work with several local product developers, and they're continuously trying to develop a product that they are happy with and that their consumers are going to be happy with, that is going to be a healthier version, and a version that they can confidently say, this is something that you can consume regularly and you don't have to be cautious about and it being too sugary, too salty, or too fat containing. So I'm excited about that. But the large manufacturers are concerned about the added sugar. So what they need to find is alternatives from natural sources to sweeten these things. For instance, banana is a great natural sweetener. All kinds of different fruits that we can find to naturally sweeten. So I think they'll start to get into the lab, to research these things, figure out how they can create a more health-minded product that doesn't have as much added sugar. Just wanted to take a moment to talk about that. You'll then see protein, and then you'll see vitamins. Now, let me just point out, they've added vitamin D, like David. They've added potassium. Almost said calcium. Calcium's been on there, as well as iron. Vitamin D has a lot of research behind it that is incredibly important to a variety of diseases. Heart disease, benefits of vitamin D. So you'll start to see that that on the labels. But what you'll start to find is manufacturers not wanting to leave that blank, starting to fortify foods with vitamin D, which is important to make note and to make mention. And I'm excited about this, because with this addition to the label, finally we can start to address the vitamin D deficiency that we're seeing in America, and that's incredibly important. Let me just say real quick, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and we typically find it in dairy, and we also find it in UV ultraviolet light produce, such as mushrooms, and in some fish, and some fatty fish. So just want to make mention of that. Potassium is incredibly important for its benefits in heart health and regulating blood pressure. What sodium does is it increases blood pressure. Potassium does the opposite and decreases blood pressure. So the two of those work together to provide balance in the body in such a way that we need sodium to regulate blood pressure, and potassium comes alongside of it and helps regulate it and make sure we're not getting too much of it and driving our blood pressure up. We get potassium from fruits and vegetables, herbs, spices. Figs are a great source as well. So just want to make mention of those. Bananas have always been talked about as a source of potassium, as well as jalapenos. So just want to make mention of these. Now, we're starting to draw here to the end. Just want to ask if there's any questions. Make sure that you put those in the comments below. If you'd like to see additional information, or if there's anything that we can do to help local products or medium-sized businesses with nutrition labeling, questions, put those in the comments below, or DM us in the messages. You can find us / True Wellness SA on all social media. You can also find us online at www.truewellnesssa.com. So just want to say thank you so much for listening in. Hope I didn't bore you too long with this information. I just wanted to let you know. Interesting to note is that there's a lot of pushback from larger manufacturers on this new labels. The requirements were to have these out on all products by the end of this year, by 2017. There's been pushback to now May of 2018. But a lot of the manufacturers that wanted to prepare for this have already started to get ready these labels. So what's interesting to make note is you have some that are ready to play ball and you have some that are refusing to do so because they have more questions that they need answered. So you'll start to see some of these new labels, but there may be some lag or there may be additional pushback. Remember, history repeats itself. In the case of 1990, the NLEA, as I mentioned, passing nutrition regulations wasn't until 1995. So this being out in 2014, there may be pushback till the end of 2018, 2019, taking about 5 years for food manufacturers to get on board. So I just want to make mention of that, but you'll start to see some of these labels. I've already started doing what we call the 2018 nutrition labels for a lot of local products to get them shelf ready. So we already have the technology is in place to create those labels. So everyone's set up for success. There's just additional questions that need to be answered for some of these food manufacturers, so there may be some delay in all products having the new nutrition label by 2018. So thank you so much for listening in. This is Matthew with True Wellness, and as always, thank you for tuning in. We'll put down below that picture of the nutrition labels just so you can compare on what we were talking about. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for our next